Hi, welcome back. The big talking point really overnight has been the massive fall we've seen in crude. Crude is down 20% in the last 1 month, and now, has officially entered bear market territory as well. Jonathan Barrett of Probus Securities joins in now from Sydney to talk about that. Jonathan, it's a slowdown in growth across the globe that is really causing crude to fall. So fundamental problems there. But do you see a further slide, and what could the trajectory be over the next 6 months?
Yes, good morning. Well, look, I think a few things are at play at the moment. First of all, I guess, is that potential slowdown in economic demand. But more importantly, I think the market has readjusted itself on the back of the waivers that, that the US has provided those countries that import oil from Iran. And I think when you look at that, we have to question the bark of the US administration in those sanctions. So without that bark, I think you're going to continue to see crude slide unless the US come out with harder measures.
Okay, now, therefore, if the oil market is oversupplied because not much of Iranian oil is moving out after all, what does that mean for prices? Is it sub 70 for Brent?
Look, I think temporarily it is the case. I think really it's still fluid as to what we're seeing with Iran. And remember that the waivers are in place for a period of time. But on another note, we've seen OPEC come out, and OPEC is concerned about a slide in prices. So as a result of that announcement, you might see some wording from OPEC about trying to arrest the decline, which might slow down the decline.
So,
So you're still not giving us a price range.
Yeah.
How much lower than 70 can Brent go?
Well, I think the important thing to note is that we have a high in place for the year. So
Okay.
I think that's important. So I think from here, yes, it can continue to go lower, but I don't think too much lower. We're yet to establish the range for the next quarter, and I think that's what we're finding at the moment. So if prices continue to move lower sharply, then you'll see the US administration and OPEC start to come out to support the market. So I think sub 70 is okay, but I don't expect it to go below that US 65.
Okay, all right, Jonathan, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining us. So not looking at much lower levels from these prices.
Very importantly, he said we've seen the high for the year.
Yeah.
So that for the Indian market, that itself should sound very good.
Okay, well, we are seeing a lot of beneficiaries this morning, the likes of aviation stocks, etc. But as we wind down on Bazaar, we leave you with some thoughts from Eicher Motors' Siddharth Lal, who says that India remains the most important market for Royal Enfield. Speaking to CNBC TV 18's Utkarsh Chaturvedi from the sidelines of the motorcycle show in Milan, Lal also talks about prospects and expansion opportunities. Thanks for watching Bazaar.
When we started thinking about these two new motorcycles, it was from absolutely a global perspective. We saw the opportunity globally. We saw that there's a space missing for great, fun, simple, old school, gorgeous, but modern motorcycles, right? And that's what these are, middleweights. So yeah, this is really the start of a new beginning. The development of these motorcycles was done with that in perspective. The lead development was done in the UK, with India, of course, being our big center. So UK, India, there's a single specification for the entire world. Mainly because we just don't want to do, we want to do one thing and we want to do it really well.
So when we speak about the 650 twins, which are the markets you're really looking at this point of time, which you'll be really infiltrating into?
So of course the most important market for us is and always will be India, because that's where our home is, that's where our base is, that's where our understanding is, our distribution is, all of that. So that's the biggest market. Then after that, really, Europe is, in numbers terms, today the biggest market for us. And that's where this is so big, and they love these kind of motorcycles, right? They like this style. They always liked our Royal Enfield style, but our previous ones were perhaps not up to the mark from a highway riding perspective in Europe, right? They were not going at 160 kilometers an hour, etc., etc. So these do that job. So Europe, US, Australia. But of course, in the long term, the big markets for us will be emerging markets where you have an India-like situation, where you have people who are riding commuter motorcycles, smaller motorcycles, they want to rise up. So that's Indonesia, Thailand, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico, Philippines, all these kind of places. That's where the future is, Southeast Asia, LatAm.
So speaking of India, by when can we see these about the twins getting launched in India?
Well, you've got the invite, and we're going to be doing our event in Goa in a week's time. Yeah, in exactly a week's time. Yeah, so yeah, we'll see you then.
So speaking of the India situation, Siddharth, if you look at the number of the festive season, they look a bit dull. Not only with one particular industry, but across CVs, PVs and motorcycles. What is your reading of the industry at this point of time? Is it a short blip, or we can see that continuing for a while?
I mean, we're all right actually. We've been, of course, there's been, as you said, a bit of a blip, but honestly, I don't even look at it that much because, we're really investing for the long term. So, as you go along, there'll be cycles, there'll be a bit of up, there'll be a bit of down. And now for Royal Enfield, those things are starting to show up just because our demand and supply now are much closer together.
Yeah.
But either which way, it doesn't affect us because really the core fundamental demand for Royal Enfield motorcycles is still really strong in India. Yeah.
No, a lot of people say that when speak about Royal Enfield, they say that there's a lot of dependence on the 350 Classic, and you wanted to move that dependence from the Himalayan, but that didn't happen when it comes to absolute numbers. How will you respond to that claim of a lot of people that 350cc is what Eicher Motors depends a lot when it comes to the numbers in India?
No, very much, very much. The classic 350s are bread and butter in India, and that's the most important model for us from a numbers perspective. The Himalayan was always going to be, let's call it as a wild card, right? This was a segment that absolutely didn't exist in India ever. We didn't know anyone who may have wanted that. So the fact that we're now growing again in Himalayan, we're growing to 1,000 plus, 1,200 a month, it's really encouraging for us because people are coming back to the Himalayan. People have seen it. They've now it's been out in the market for 2 years. Some have ridden it, and now the word on the street is really good. So we're not pushing it very hard. We're just organically growing the Himalayan franchise. That's what we're doing. But clearly, we think now after that, so we've had the 350, we have the 500 franchise, which is also quite strong. The Himalayan, and now this one is mainstream. I mean, this is a roadster. This kind of motorcycle, the Interceptor, it's a regular style, right? This is not a Himalayan which is adventure tourer, which is a bit more different. Let's say it's not a cafe racer, which is also a bit more different. This is absolutely mainstream. So we expect to sell quite a few of these Interceptors in India. Yeah.
Which are the markets and which are the segments that you think the next chunk of growth will come?
So we've broadened our base now a lot in India, and we expect that, for this motorcycle, for the Interceptor, the GT, we have nearly 3 million customers in India who are riding 350 and 500cc Royal Enfields today. A lot of them, when we were talking to them many years ago and understanding what they want, they say, okay, this is great. Some of them say, well, we want something a bit more. We want something a bit more power. We want something with a different style. Because, we've ridden a classic 350. We love it, but perhaps we want a bit more. So that's the segment really. It's our existing customers who these motorcycles are aimed at. But the classic 350, the Himalayan, and others which are singles are absolutely aimed at the upgraders. People who are upgrading from 100, 150cc motorcycles. Yeah.
So speaking of just dealership expansions, as you said, North America is something which you're doing on your own. But the other markets, what is the plan of increasing the retail? Because the question came right now from a person from Germany.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the bike. There was a lot of people here. But then there was a question of, where do we get those bikes?
Where can we get those bikes? So we've done a lot of work because it's not just number of points, it's also quality of points, right? So, for example, in Germany, we have around 50 stores now that sell our motorcycles. Now, Germany is a reasonable sized country, but we have maybe a bit more than 50 stores. So it's not bad. We're expanding. We have at Eicher, as we speak, I've been walking around, I've been standing here in the stalls. We have dealers coming in because Eicher has a trade show as well, right? We've got dealers coming in, they're looking at these motorcycles, they're looking at the crowds, they're looking at the interest, they're riding the motorcycles. We have a test ride outside going on, and they're signing up as we speak. They're coming in, they're signing up, and it's a different grade of motorcycle dealers that we're getting now. So it's not just a small mom and pop shop, which we also like, but these are now big professional dealers who are selling big European brands who want Royal Enfield in their stores. So that's what's going on right now. In UK, I believe we have 3 exclusive Royal Enfield stores in London, 2 more outside of London, and growing. In France, we have 3-4 exclusive Royal Enfield stores. So that's the kind of thing that we're growing as well, in addition to the 50 odd stores that we have in each of these countries, which are multi-brand stores.